The government's efforts to save small business from the impacts of the pandemic have largely missed Black-owned companies. According to analysis by the Center for Responsible Lending, 95% of Black-owned businesses were shut out of the Paycheck Protection Program. Because of this, new research from UC Santa Cruz shows more than 40% of Black business owners have closed up shop for good. CBS Moneywatch reporter Khristopher Brooks wrote about this in an article published today, and he joins us now. Hi, Khristopher. So let's dive into these numbers a little bit. 40% of Black-owned businesses closed for good because of the pandemic versus just 17% of white businesses. Why is the gap between the two so large?
Well, there's a couple reasons for that. I mean, the main one is white businesses have some of those financial resources that you need to sort of weather a pandemic like this. They were able to pull down small business loans to keep them afloat, or they had cash reserves already available to them to help them get through this. A lot of times, they were also able to get the paycheck protection loan that they needed to keep afloat as well, and Black businesses just didn't have that.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. I don't understand. Why did the Paycheck Protection Program not help these Black-owned businesses?
Well, the simple answer to that is a lot of those businesses just didn't get it at all. A majority of Black-owned businesses that applied for that didn't get the loan at all. And part of that reason is because there's a lot of Black-owned businesses that are sole proprietorships. That means they are the only owner and the only employee. So they didn't meet a lot of the staffing level requirements and a lot of the revenue generating requirements that they needed to apply for that loan. So ultimately what that meant was a lot of them were shut out of the program, but there were a lot of white-owned businesses that got it. And during the pandemic, where a lot of these stores were closing and they needed to bring in income, that PPP loan was that bridge that kept them open, and some of them just didn't get it, so they closed.
So in light of these egregious numbers, is Congress going to go back and retroactively refit the legislation to include some of the criteria that you say these Black-owned businesses meet more? Because, if you're passing legislation to help small businesses stay afloat, you clearly want to help everyone's small business, not just small businesses owned by whites. So is there any movement in Congress to retroactively tweak the Paycheck Protection Program?
There is talks of it, but nothing that's that I've seen that firm and actually going to happen. You would hope so, right? Because we really depend on all these Black-owned businesses to help prop up the U.S. economy as well. Back in February, there were about 1.1 million Black-owned businesses, and most of the time, Black-owned businesses employ Black workers as well. So you need that money to help circulate the economy and get that local economy going and the U.S. economy going. So you need them both, but the federal government doesn't have anything right now specifically for retroactively helping them, but that's the hope.
And so, considering the state of the country with both the pandemic and the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, do you think that this will, open the eyes of certain banks that have not been so generous in their lending to Black businesses and to sort of change lending practices going forward and help these businesses secure lines of credit?
I mean, you would hope so, but look, at the end of the day, banks make loans based on the risk, right? The risk that they'll be able to get that money back. And some of the same systemic reasons that these Black owners weren't able to get loans before will still exist after we get out of this pandemic, whenever that may be, right? So it's really a function of, can these Black businesses put themselves in a better financial position to look attractive to banks to get loans going forward? Because if we end up with another sort of pandemic situation in the future, we can see this happening again, no matter what changes were made at the individual bank level or at the systematic lending practice level. It's really a function of, do you look attractive to get a loan from a bank? And right now, a lot of Black businesses don't.
And so now, Khristopher, that states are slowly reopening. How important is it for members of, specific communities to patronize their local businesses right now?
It's crucial. I mean, it really is, because when we look at this, ultimately there were effectively 3 months where these businesses had no customers. They had no income. And now that they're reopened, or starting to reopen, some states are different, right? But basically, once June started, a lot of these businesses were able to reopen. So they need an influx of cash, like immediately. So if you own a Black business, or if you want to patronize a Black business, this is like the best time to do so right now. They need all of the customers that they can get. They need bookings. They need customers. They need all of that right now. And if you know of any Black businesses in your communities, you need to purposely go out there and try to find those and try to be customers of those. There's sometimes struggles with finding Black-owned businesses in your communities. There's actually an app out called Official Black Wall Street that helps people find where Black businesses are in their community. So if you can find that and find some in your community, you should definitely patronize that. They need the money right now.
All right. Well, Khristopher Brooks, thank you so much for shedding some light on what's going on right now in the economy. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.